Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining. A little different. We're doing this on a Monday instead of a Friday. Big change of pace because we have a new instructor who just recently started with us. So I just want to say hello, good morning, happy Monday to everybody. Really looking forward to today. A new instructor that we have is a great guy, a true professional. His name's Matthew Solomon, and we're going to talk a little bit about his background. He's going to talk about his experiences about becoming an instructor in New York State. Once again, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, do all the cool stuff all the kids are doing these days. And if you want to ask questions live, feel free to put them in the chat, and I will put them up as we go. Here he is, the man, the myth, the legend, Matthew Solomon. Good morning.
Good morning, Charles. Thank you for having me, and good morning to the audience.
Thank you for calming me down. As I was saying earlier, public speaking is, our thing. That's all we do. But whenever I do these, I always get like those pre-interview jitters.
Maybe it's because it's Monday.
I think so. It's a big change. We do them on Friday. It's the end of the week and relax, but we have a whole workload ahead of us. So, folks, I want to introduce Matthews. Great guy, well educated in his field. Tons of fire department certifications. Has a background, with health and safety, and with OSHA and SST. If there's a certification, he's probably got it. About over a decade of experience that you have now. So, Matthew, would like for you to just take a moment, introduce yourself, and tell everybody a little bit about you, where you're from, and then we'll kind of jump right into the questions.
Thank you, Charles. Again, my name is Matthew Solomon, born and raised in the Bronx. I'm still here, still doing my thing. As Charles mentioned, I have 10 plus years of security experience in the industry. It's a mix of both security and a bit of healthcare. I worked as both an HHA and a CNA. I'm not that old, but I do. I've switched between both industries, but I've mainly remained with security. And so, over the years as I worked and I built my experience, I've always looked for more opportunities in order to pass on a lot of the knowledge that I gained over time. And so at some point, I did my research and I wondered to myself, how could I become an instructor? Over all the years that I went and took my annuals, I was very impressed by a lot of instructors. So it struck me, why don't I look into doing that? And I found the pathway, and at some point, I decided I was going to become an instructor, and I did it. And here I am.
It's funny, and we'll get into your specifics with your journey. Right now, you're the youngest trainer that we have on the staff, but you have tons of experience in different things. I usually will sit in on almost every single class that we do, and you bring a very unique perspective to security, especially for people who are new and starting
Mhm.
off for the very first time, which I think is important. A lot of times people think, "Oh, I'm going to be a security guard. I'm going to sit at the desk all day and do nothing." And nothing could be further from the truth.
Absolutely.
I always like jumping in on the annuals because you always throw a little bit of flavor on there, and you keep the folks motivated. And you and I kind of say the same thing. We always thank them for the job that they do because they really are out there on the front lines every single day.
Absolutely.
We got a couple of people here. Just want to say hello. They're in the chat. Good to see you. If you got questions, feel free, put them in the chat. We're
Hello,
more than
hello.
happy to put them up. I know your whole fan base is going to come in here. You've been teaching all weekend, so everybody's probably coming back for more. So, we'll talk about the common traits of a great instructor. I think everybody is kind of like a cook, and they bring
Mhm.
their own little recipe to there. But you might take some lead way with some of the things that you do based on your background. Because you have unique experiences, I think, working in a lot of different locations. So, what do you feel are the common traits of a great instructor?
Well, I'll say number one is being willing to learn, right? We don't all know everything. And so, one of the things I believe that makes a great instructor is you're willing to learn. I learn many things from the students in the classes that I instruct. There are many things I don't know that they may know. And so, I believe also being humble, because I humble myself in those moments in which a student will probably give me information that I'm like, wow, I didn't know that. And so I add it to like my general base of knowledge. Being knowledgeable, about many things. I'm a naturally inquisitive person. I've always been like that since I was a little kid until the age that I am now. It still hasn't stopped. So I'm always interested in many things. I follow politics. I love history. I love having conversations with people. You know, um, I think those are some of the traits that makes a good instructor.
Yeah, and I know just from some of the ones that I've been able to sit in, with you, you're very lively. You keep everybody engaged. I've gone to probably 100 different like train the trainer sessions,
Hmm.
and whoever's presenting, they do a good job of like building a good instructor, right? You have to have good communication skills. You have to be able to pivot because people think differently, people learn differently, and I got to say that's probably one of the best things that I've seen you do is you get everybody involved. Whether it's a new guard doing something for the very first time, if it's someone renewing, or the veterans that have been doing this for like 20 years and they've been doing it wrong for 20 years, to help correct them.
So one of the things that I got from my mentor, the guy who trained me to become an instructor, is he mentioned one of the qualities I have, and I've noticed it is I'm confident, right? Confident, but not arrogant. And I guess that comes from my background growing up in the church. My mom took me to church on Sundays every time when we were little kids, and she put us in suits. She dressed us up real nice, so it built like this level of confidence where I can go in front of groups of people and speak, and exude like that level of personality. And that's just how I am. I always try to level with people, be nice to them, meet them where they're at, hear their story, what they want to talk about, and in turn, they want to hear what I want to talk about.
I, I gotta say, you definitely have confidence, and I'm gonna show a picture. I mean, with this hat, man, you gotta have a big head and a good ego, right, to rock a hat like that. You're looking sharp. Tell the folks a little bit about this photo because I got a kick out of it when you sent it to me.
This is from a couple years ago when I worked for Tiffany. It was just me and my coworker goofing about. We're doing our patrols while we're on the floor, and this is in the advertising department. They have this creative section where these people, they're amazing. They make all kinds of things. I don't know if you've ever seen the displays for the Tiffany windows, but they make all kinds of things. And so you had this big goofy hat. That hat is in Tiffany blue, by the way. So I just felt compelled, tossed it on, and I told my coworker, "Hey, take a photo, man. How do I look?"
I I laugh because I think we all kind of have pictures like that on the job site. You build a lot of friendships over the years at the places that you work. But
Yeah, absolutely.
another set of photos I really wanted to share. These were really good, looking sharp, looking great. Tell the folks about this.
Well, these are about maybe a year and a half apart. The one on the left is when I still have my locks. I'm still with the current company part time that I'm with, CPR Security Services. Shout out to them. This is me doing my field operations. We were down on a location in Brooklyn, and as a supervisor, you kind of get to dress up. I didn't want to take the liberties too far, so I was wearing the gray with the black. And so just checking in on everyone. And to the
Fresh to
right
death,
was
man.
the wedding. It was a
Yeah,
wedding photo. So
you dress sharp, man. You don't play around.
thank you, thank you.
um, yeah, I appreciate you sharing like your personal life with us and with our students because I think that really does go a long way. Depending upon the company or the location, sometimes you really can be all by yourself until your
Hmm.
relief shows up. Some places, yeah, you work with a team of guards and you have a supervisor there and there's constant supervision, but depending upon the contract, it might just be them and them alone. Um, so we talked about the traits to becoming a really good instructor. Um, why did you become an instructor?
Well, you had a lot that has happened over the last couple years. While I really enjoyed my time at Tiffany, where I was, there wasn't a real big way for me to move up vertically in the security department. And so I kind of looked outside of the security department within that company. And when you're looking at things on how to advance yourself, there's always a few hurdles that you got to jump through. And so I wanted to stay adjacent in the field of security, and so I was going to pursue the fire life safety director at some point, but this was a few years before now a lot of companies were willing to sponsor people that didn't have the requisite experience. And so for one of those things, I know you have to have a location to take the actual in-person site exam. And unfortunately, there weren't a lot of people that were willing to put their name to someone who they don't know, who's new. And like as I mentioned to you, Charles, and to everyone, it just popped into my head one day where it's like, I really like the people that were giving me instruction at some of these training schools. Why don't I look into doing that? And I scoured the internet and I found it. I found the application, the required qualifications, and from there, I just ran with it. I'm like, hey, I fit this bill in order to become an instructor. And the next difficult thing was finding a school that offered the 40-hour IDC course. And I believe at some point you guys offered it, if I'm correct.
We do some specialized training like that. Maybe once a year. We have done that. We've done the saber pepper spray instructor. We did the some stuff with NRA. So we do those periodically. It's not a huge in demand, so you have to have a number of students to run them. But we always want to see people grow in the industry.
Yeah, absolutely. So I found it, and from there, I did it, and I just waited. I was patient, and I found you guys, so here I am.
And one of these days, I know you're going to go through the process to become a fire and life safety director, which we do that class. For those folks who are interested, it's a good program, and we do it for 6 consecutive Saturdays. We know people are working, we know people have school, we know people have family. So there are some places they do it, they try to get everybody in and out as quickly as possible. And for that kind of course, it's very detailed. A lot of reading, a lot of things that you need to know about the job and about your job site. So we kind of take it slow for 6 consecutive weeks.
Roger that.
I love it. It's a lot more skills based than theory.
Hmm.
And when you're talking about your process, the IDC course, I remember for me, I had come right out of the military. I didn't know what I wanted to do, so I just jumped into security, and then I kind of got certification after certification. Kind of went the same route as you. My process, I mean, we did like a 5-day course. It was in downtown, I believe, on Wall Street. It was
Oh,
only like one school at that time doing the IDC courses. How was your process like? What did you have to do? What did you have to learn to teach?
well, just to say it, you know him, Mr. Alan Moody. I think he's excellent. He's
Mhm.
great. I was lucky. I would say it like this because he's an excellent instructor. And so once I paid to take the course and he told me, hey, this is the date that it's going to start. From day one, he automatically had us stand in front of the class and present something. He told us from day one, he was like, listen, to all 8 students, me included, he was like, I'm gonna give you guys 5 minutes to come up here and talk to everyone, right? And it could be about any topic that you want. So automatically he threw everyone into the fire. Like, and that's he started his evaluation from day one with that challenge essentially. And so it was very interesting because every day subsequent afterwards, he kept giving us more and more time, right? To then now talk about a specific topic.
Mhm.
Day two was 10 minutes, day three, I think, was 30. And then, it was repeat of 30 minutes on day four. And then day five was when you had to do the 50-minute, hour-long presentation. And so it was very, what can I say? It was very dynamic in a good way because it reminded me of school. And so it
And
was great.
it's so funny because I mean, I tell this story all the time to everybody that knows me. I hated school, cut class all the time. I skipped school,
Mm,
dropped out, got my GED, went right into the military.
mhm.
And all I do now is teach training 7 days a week, sometimes 5 or 6 classes a day. Um, when you find something you like doing, you'll go all out. And I think for an instructor, it's changed a lot over the years. Where before, you just kind of go up to a blackboard and just write down whatever you're going to talk about. Today, teaching is so dynamic. We cover the VARC method, right? We show visuals, we got videos, we got handouts, auditory learners, we got writing lessons that we do in kinesthetics, for hands-on. So you kind of have to understand who your base is and your students. We got one question from Millie. Good morning. Good to see you. This is a good one. Applying for a facilities manager in a homeless shelter, and they require an F80. Go for it. Do you think a woman can carry out this responsibility?
Yes,
What
Millie.
tips do you
Of
have?
course.
Absolutely.
A woman's more than capable of carrying out the responsibilities. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Let's remember you have both men's shelters, family shelters, and women's shelters. So that's one thing. What tips do I have for you as a woman in the field? Well, one, always be extra protective of yourself working in this field, as I like to remind everyone. It's not it's a societal thing, but women in positions of authority, especially security, are challenged more by everyone, just because. And so I always say to the women, just be extra cautious and aware of it. So when you encounter situations where people might be confrontational, just remember you gotta de-escalate and be extra aware just in case. So that's a tip I can say.
Yeah, I would kind of chime in on that, almost echo your sentiments. One thing I would say, especially when it comes down to fire safety, for a shelter, this is where people live. So emotions sometimes run high. Two main skills: learn de escalation, and then learn not to take things personally. Sometimes people are just mad at a situation, not really mad at you. But yeah, absolutely. Go get your F80. Don't play around. That is a great license to get. We offer that, I think, 3 or 4 different times a month now. It's a very popular class. Kudos to you. Good job, Millie. How did your previous work experience prepare you for the role as an instructor?
That's a good question. I think because of the fact that I did a mix of both the health field and security, and I'll say especially the health field, I learned to work at a very personal level with people because I'm working with them face to face in their homes. So I'm seeing and witnessing things that, most people would probably either be bothered by. And so it prepared me to come to understand that, I have to be, in control, calm in these situations, know what I need to know, be rational. And so I think because of those many things, when I jumped into doing security, it translated really well, because I've encountered many situations such working in security and like you said, being able to de-escalate. And so I took many of those things. And then also, the fact that I'm very inquisitive, I took many of those things. And, once I applied to become an instructor, I didn't expect that. I would never say that the process was easy. It was hard because it was hard getting the information and knowing where to go and where to turn to get it started. But I did it.
Yeah. Another really good question came in from someone. I think they logged in and then they logged out. They asked, working in the health field, have you ever had to give CPR to a person?
In the health field, no.
That's one thing I kind of stress to security guards, new and old. CPR and first aid is a great skill to have. It's a good certification as well. You're probably going to use that more on a day-to-day basis than anything. It could be a minor cut, someone slips, they get scraped on the elbow or on their knee. New York City, sometimes someone's running outside, they trip coming in with their coffee and then their bags. I can't
Mm-hmm.
tell you how many medical calls I had to respond to in this industry. Had to give CPR a couple of times to a couple of people. Seen some wild stabbings that I got involved in my early days in the career. But yeah, CPR, first aid, good stuff to have. And it kind of depends on your location. If you're working in like a retail store or an office building or a shelter, probably something you're going to use. Could be for the kids if you're working at an amusement park or like a bowling alley.
Yep.
And I know you're always staying up to date with things. You and I are, kind of grown up in the age between social media and news. We're always in all these different networks. How do you stay up to date with the new trends and things that are going on in the industry?
Well, I rely on you guys, the students. I follow a lot of things on the news, social media. I happen to be subscribed to a couple of, I believe, security industry magazines. And then, I think because of the fact that just by default alone, we're both in the city. So it's like the city itself is like a newsreel.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's so funny. Like, people ask me, do you follow the stuff on Citizens? I'm like, no, I have enough information overload between all of the things that I'm hooked up into. You talked about magazines. I think the PTSN, Professional Security Training Network, or PSTN, I should say, Professional Security Training Network. That's a great resource, folks. If you want to find more out about security, you have ASIS. It's a
Yep.
great trade show
E6.
in November, I believe, October, November. They usually do something at the end of the year at the Javits Center. Um, Probably gonna sneak out of work. I just don't want the owner to know. Yeah, I'm gonna sneak out of work. All right. That's when they got all of the cool stuff. I remember the first year I came to Guardian. We went together, Bruce and I. I mean, the latest and greatest technology that's out there. So many new things like drone technology being used in security, robotic dogs, access cards, cameras. So many new and cool things. And that's one thing I tell folks. Just because you're doing something now does not mean it's going to be that way, 5 or 10 years from now. I know I'm kind of
Absolutely.
dating myself when we talk about the old, Detex wands, or the clock watch. You go around with the keys. Same concept, just done differently now.
Yeah.
Now they go with the smartphone and they scan the
Yep.
QR
Some
code.
students mentioned that used to work at the university and they implemented that, and I was like, oh, that's cool.
I always tell folks, I mean, if you would just put some effort into doing your job the right way instead of trying to scam the system, they would get tired on the overnights. What they did is, they made
Mm,
copies of the QR codes. They left them on the desk, so they'd wait, scan one, boop, wait a couple minutes,
mm.
boop, scan the other. I'm like, guys, you do understand you're still on camera, right? Oh, I didn't know. What do you mean you didn't know? You took all that time and energy to go about not doing your job, and
Only if you would apply it to, doing your job, right?
yeah, yeah. Uniforms are a really big thing. We have an instructor who's been with us for a while, and they've talked about the change in the actual uniform itself. Years ago, you used to get a nice cotton wool suit.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
Not
people,
anymore.
you're
The
looking
cheap
for.
it's the cheap polyester. I was remarking that to a couple of students where I'm not necessarily a big fan of some of the company policies always wanting to keep the guards in the black suits. I'm like, whatever happened to like the, dark navy or even
Mhm.
dark gray, where because you know how it is with the black suits. The black suits they get everything on them. They get dirty fast. You just rub against something and you got a whole white streak across your jacket, and it doesn't look good, and you're just like,
Even it's funny because you talk about the change of just the colors. I remember it was always navy blue. Maybe you would have gray slacks depending on the location. But when they started changing to black, they're synthetic, and people don't realize like they get hotter faster. So when you sweat,
"Huh?
they smell. And two, if you have to deal with a fire emergency, it's a synthetic piece of fabric on you, which can burn
Mhm.
faster and hotter. Um, I thought this was a really good question, and I always like to ask the instructors on their process. And everybody likes teaching a certain way. Some people love to do things in person because they could kind of work off the vibe and the energy of people, a true like showman. And some people like online because they have so many different like cool tools they can use. I like them both. Preference wise, I like online. Just it's
Mhm.
a little bit easier to get people. But what about you versus inline online?
I will agree with you that I do like them both. My biggest gripe with online training is I'm my body's just not built to stay put for so long. So, it's
Yeah,
just so having to sit for an extended
yeah.
period of time, I'll find like my hips are bothering me, my knees. I love in-person training.
Sure.
I love the in-person training. You know, as you mentioned, it's just something with it, like being able to be there in person. It's like it almost feels like to me people have no excuse but to learn,
Yeah.
you know. And so I don't know, I just like it. I like the challenge of it because I feel you get to see more of people's personalities in person versus through a screen. But I found the online to be honestly very refreshing and quite entertaining, really.
I gotta say, I'm kind of like the same way. Like, you kind of see it. I'm like Anthony. Like, I gotta move here. I gotta go there. I want to get somebody
Yeah.
involved. Um, Even with the podcast too, it's just like stay still for 5 seconds. I think the only real challenge we've ever run into with online is sometimes the students may not have the best connection
Hmm.
or technical skills. So if they hit a little speed bump, no one is really there to kind of help navigate through them. Whereas if it's in person, you can kind of guide them through like a reading exercise or a comprehension exercise, or if it's something fire safety related, actually pulling the pins,
Yep.
aiming, whether
The
it's a
visual
shooting
aids and
class.
everything.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in visual aids. If you're in a training class with me, you're probably gonna put your hands on like 20 different training tools throughout the day. Uh,
I agree with that.
yeah. And you and I are always going for more licenses and certifications. I just knocked down two big goals of mine. The biggest one was my NRA instructor. I just passed that, which was a big deal for me. Uh,
Wow.
I always try to put something.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Always something on the board at least once a year, just to kind of stay in the network, reach a professional goal. Um, I'll do speeches and seminars and podcasts with different people, but what continuous professional development would you consider for you, or maybe for our viewers?
I've been looking at I believe there's a company that does they have an active shooter certification that they offer. And so I've been looking at that for quite some time. Personal development in terms of what I want to get into. Oddly enough, New York City is a little weird, but I've been looking into things for locksmithing, and
Ah, nice.
yeah, it's really really old school. It's hard to find a lot of information on it, and so I'm like, I wonder if that's like intentional, and apparently it seems like it is. So
Yeah, I went down that journey when I first started security, because back in the day, that's all it was. It was just locks and keys.
hmm.
Now they've kind of branched out more, and you have to be a security systems operator. Um,
Yep.
Really good course. It's a very long one. I think there's only like two or three schools that do it in New York State now, and it's a lengthy process.
Yep. So
But
it's something I've considered.
I'll get you those details if I'll dig them out of my contacts. I think it was
Yeah.
upstate. I think that was the only reason I didn't go, is because it was nowhere in like the five boroughs that was doing it.
I hear
Uh,
that.
yeah, and access controls, big money maker. If you're looking to make money in the security guard industry, get into access control. Locks and keys are needed.
Oh, yeah. The physical hardware stuff, it's big time.
Millie wants to know, can we recommend an online training for the F80? Millie, go to our website. We got you covered. GuardianGroupServices.com. If I remember correctly, I think there is one this Friday and then another one next Saturday. So, Millie, if you need your F80, just go to our website, book it on there. We do it 3 times per month. I love putting stuff out there. If you go to our YouTube page and you subscribe, it's free. We literally have like 1,000 different videos on there. So I'm always putting out new content for people. One of the most recent videos that we did focused around the concealed carry courses, which is really big in New York State now, in armed guard training
Hmm.
and fire safety. Like, those are like the three big things going on with us right now. But what resources would you recommend?
Recommend to students to look into after a class. It all depends on what they're asking and what they're looking at. I know for a lot of students, like you said, they've asked about the armed guard, right? And I would tell them like, hey, if you're interested in becoming an armed guard, check out some of the schools. You know, Guardian Group Services. I believe you have Gold Shield and Pistol, very good school in Westchester County. You know, it all depends. Some of them have asked, like I said before, about instructor training, how to become an instructor, what are the qualification standards, and I've recommended them all. Hey, go on Google, type search this in. Like Google's your best friend, by the way. You know, so
Yeah.
recommended to them, type search this. It's like, you know, I'll give you the right keywords to help you along. And so, you know, students have looked into it, and I've told them, like, hey, you got all this experience. Why not translate it into something a little more?
Yeah. It's so funny. It's like, it made me just think back for a minute. Like when we wanted to find out information, I feel like a dinosaur now.
Uh,
You break out this book, folks, called the like Yellow Pages, and I mean literally trying to go through stuff.
yep. Or
But
you talk to people in person. Is there's a lot of gatekeeping in our industry when we were coming up, wasn't there?
yeah, yeah, you
Right.
had to know somebody, and you better be on their good side. Word travels fast if you're a good guy or a bad guy.
Yep.
One thing I always recommend, which is helpful for students, FEMA. FEMA does a bunch of online independent study classes, and they're free. So that doesn't cost you anything, folks. If you're in school and you're going to college, the great thing about the FEMA courses, number one, they're free. And most of them will give you, half a credit or a full college credit, depending upon what you want to take. So they do, a bunch of different things: emergency management, active shooter, basic security awareness, but really, really well worth it. That's so funny. Man, it just made me feel like a dinosaur. Yeah, like when we had to look up stuff. I mean, you were looking. Oh, way to make me feel old. Um, Now, you've done a bunch of classes with us. I kind of looked through our database. You've probably taught a couple of, 100 classes so far, but you've been doing this for a while. You've been in the training space for a bit. What has been your most memorable class, whether it's, in person or online? What's been your memorable class so far?
It was one of the online courses with you guys. About 2 weeks ago, we had a student. He was a judge. I believe he was an appellate court judge for New York State. He was telling me about his background because everybody assumed he was law enforcement, that he was a former cop. He was like, no, I used to be a judge, and I found it, number one, very intriguing, but also very cool because I'm over here asking him questions like, well, this happens and that. And it was amazing because, you know, he gave us a bit of his background where he told us, for you to become a judge and what he was doing, you didn't have to have any formal education.
Hmm.
So what the state would do is, if you got elected to be a judge in that position, you'll take continuous training throughout all the years that you're there.
Wow.
And I was like, wow, like that's really different. But it was great having that.
There's probably been, oh my gosh, a couple of judges in our class. I always found it odd. Like, you run into like a cop who's becoming a security guard, or like a judge who's becoming a security guard. We've come across a lot of corrections officers recently, kind of changing pace, and going back and forth.
Mm.
So we always tell folks, make sure you do your due diligence when you're doing your training. New York State has a list of approved schools. Sometimes people hear the word online training and they get a little, nervous, or they're not sure. Guardian Group Services is an approved New York State training school by the Division of Criminal Justice. They have their list of people and schools that are not authorized to conduct the training.
Yes, sir.
And a lot of people go to some of these bogus schools, and I feel so bad. I hear stories, they paid, $1,000 to get,
Oh,
their license. And um,
don't worry, Charles. I was a victim of that too many years ago. Many, many
I mean,
years
there was like
ago.
three schools. I'm not going to name the names, but a lot of people just, they want to get a job and they want to get in the industry right away, folks. So I always say, if you have any questions, feel free to ask us. We're always happy to kind of guide you. We do a bunch of training in security. So if you're looking to get a license or renew, we've got you covered. We do OSHA training. site safety manager training. We do the F80. We do the FLSD. We do the sprinkler. We do the standpipe. We do basic first aid. We do CPRs. There's so many courses that we do. Just give us a call. Check our website. We're kind of happy to guide you through the process. So now, Matthew, I got a bunch of questions. These came by email. Some of them reached out, during some of the classes. So they asked me to kind of hit you with these fast questions. So I'm going to put them up. You just tell me the first thing that comes to mind. We'll kind of go through them. All right. So the first question they had asked, what's your favorite place to eat in New York?
Oh man, that's rough.
That's a tough one.
I'll say I'm just gonna go with it. City Island.
City Island. Okay. Good choice. Can never go wrong when you go to City Island. You're gonna have a good meal. All my places, they close down, unfortunately. You prefer a night out going to the club, or are you a homebody, like to stay home watching TV and movies?
Never been a big club person, so I'd stay home and watch a movie.
Yeah, I mean, back in the day I would go out, but today's day and age is just too much going on. You get caught up in some nonsense.
And I'm security, so I'm always paranoid. I'm like, what's
Yeah.
going on?
Yeah, I'm the same way. I got to sit in a certain spot. I got to keep my eye on it.
No back to the door.
That's it. That's the military stuff in me. Are you an early morning person or a late night person for productivity? I thought this was a really good question.
It is a good question. I'm an either or, but I do like nights. I'm a night owl.
Yeah, those days are over for me. I'm 0500 to like maybe 10 o'clock, and that's it. At 10:05, I'm out. This is another good one relating to security. Do you prefer working with a group or solo assignments?
I do like group projects. Ever since I was a kid, I have a habit of when I work by myself on my own. You know how it is. I procrastinate too much, man. I'll get the assignment done, but I get it done the last minute, in the 24 hours. It'll be good work, crazily. Somehow it'll be good work. And I'm just like, no, I can't work like this.
I was a little bit of both, but in college, I could not stand group projects. I'm like, I'm going to do me. I had a really good GPA going out of school. I left school with a 3.8 when I went to John Jay. And this was because I was like, I got to keep my head down, moving forward. And I was like just very antisocial. Like, let me get out of here. I'm trying to get out of school as quickly as possible. But when it comes to security work, I like working with teams because you need somebody watching your back.
Always.
That's a good question. Favorite movies? I know you can't just answer one.
The Bourne trilogy.
Oh, yeah.
I love Saving Private Ryan. It's a good flick. Oh, there's so many. Halloween. I'm a big horror movie guy. The Thing, John Carpenter's They Live. I can go on and on and on. Don't get me started.
My first job was at a movie theater. If I could like pay rent and bills and live off of that, I mean, I'd love to stay in that industry. It was so much fun.
Yeah.
Really, really good stuff. I got into a lot of like the movies like Contagion. I tie everything back to security. That's a great movie. The Siege with Bruce Willis and Denzel years ago. Great movie. There's so many things you can kind of take from this and apply it to the security world. This I thought was a really good question. I don't want to say their name because I don't know if they're in here or not, but one of your students asked to put this up. They would probably catch this later. Do you prefer tough love, mentorship, or do you have someone, in your background constantly supporting you?
I think me personally, I'd go for someone who's a supportive cheerleader. I think I've had too many tough love mentors in my life. So I think I'm kind of over it.
Man, that's all I had growing up, man. In New York, and then jump into the military was always out and get it done.
It's like, can somebody pat me on the back for once?
Like, please, man, just acknowledge what I'm doing. Yeah, listen, you got to have people in your corner, I think. And just in life in general, you have to have people just kind of constantly pushing you to do better. But you got to have people supporting you, building up your base.
I think both of them are important. I think both are equally important. At some point in your life, you need them both.
You talked a little bit about this earlier. I know you wanted to elaborate. Who were some of your mentors that helped you along the way?
Well, when I was at Tiffany, I had a gentleman, God rest his soul, by the name of Tony Lima. He probably honestly had one of the biggest impacts on my life and my job, my career so far. You know, because here's a gentleman, former military, you know, dressed sharp. He knew his stuff. He knew the ins and outs of everything that went on at Tiffany. You know, he had been there for quite some time. But this guy, he just took a liking to me, took me under his wing. You know, he showed me the ropes, and when he passed, it was heartbreaking. You know, because this was during COVID and everything. You know, it wasn't COVID that got him, but it was just so sudden. You know,
Yeah.
because there was so many things like this is a man who have become one of my best friends. Where we talked about stuff. We talked about Teslas. This is a guy who doesn't even have a driver's license, and we talk about silly stuff. And he's like, Matt, for you, we get the Tesla. Yo, you drive me around in it, man. And it was just such a he's such an outgoing personality, so loving, and so caring. But at the same time, when it had to come down to business and be serious, he's a guy who could turn from that to, all right, this has got to get done. Let's go. Let's do it. Let's make sure it's done.
And
And it was something that it was just like it really was. It was amazing.
I've had a few mentors. I've been lucky, I think, in my career to be lucky enough to have an open ear and
Yeah,
want to learn. There's some people in some jobs like I don't want to hear it. I'm here for a check, and I'm kind of
that's
punching
it.
in, punching out. But yeah, I've had the same kind of experiences, and I've had guys help me who are like three times my age in this industry when I first started. One guy, I didn't know anything about stocks or bonds or savings or anything like that. I was just terrible with that stuff. And when I first started, I was probably 23, 24. He told me, listen, you're probably going to spend 20 bucks a week on nonsense stuff. Take that
Hmm.
money and just, open up like a share builder account and, buy some stocks. You'll learn, buy and sell. Just kind of help me get my finances in order. I've run into a few guys who are in the military and, prior NYPD. Talked a lot about, the legal aspects of the job, which I think are really important. A lot of times people really don't understand that nothing is going on, but all of a sudden that one day you run into an emergency, you're going to be thrust right into the middle. You got to know the job of what you can and cannot do and
Yep.
what you must do in this industry. Um, we talked a little bit about this earlier. I thought this was a good one. Short-term wins or long-term legacy?
Mm, that's a good one. Long-term legacy. You know, long-term legacy. Because if you're blessed to live, a long time, the hope is like, if you don't make mistakes that are too catastrophic, you can always, correct those or change your path or find a different way in order to, to build something longer term.
Sure. Do you have anything you want to mention that you're proud of your accomplishments? I know you've done a lot already.
Uh, I'm I don't like to brag. That's always been a character trait of mine. I don't like to big up myself too much. I'm the kind of guy who wants to put in the work and show the results.
Hmm.
And so I'm never really big on like, yeah, I took a chance. I wanted to do more. I took a chance to get the instructor certification, and I'm not stopping there. As you know already, working with CPR, a good friend of ours, Dexter's, and that's a opportunity and a pathway that opened up just by sheer luck. Because obviously it's something he's building, but
Sure.
also it's like now it's an opportunity for me, to build something alongside him that's small and that's new.
Yep.
And who would have thought?
And it's so funny. Yeah, I'll tell the story of, when we first met and talked, found out, and I always kind of like to know all the cards before I make a phone call. We know a lot of the same people in the industry.
Yeah,
And you'll know right away of who are the good companies and who are the good players in the game, because there's a lot of companies that don't do right by their guards or don't do right by their clients. What you do and your folks over there are doing. Obviously, it's a job, right? You want to get paid for doing a good job, but you guys really care about what you do at the end of the day.
yeah,
We do a ton of training. kind of counted, I think we do about 500 students per week now, and just everything that we do. So we train a lot of private individuals. We train corporate security guards. We help community-based organizations. So, if you're looking to get into this career, or maybe switch gears, maybe you're just kind of in between jobs, or you need some source of income, security is not going anywhere anytime
Yeah,
soon.
it's not going anytime soon. If anything, you're going to see an expansion, right? Because you had a student, I believe that was in my course on Friday. He spoke about that he's getting into the IT stuff. Forget what he mentioned specifically, but I was like, I wouldn't be surprised if you start to see like an amalgamation of companies now wanting you to have like security guard experience alongside the IT stuff.
Hmm.
And I'm like, yeah, it's adjacent.
I remember, this is probably like the second job that I had worked for. I mean, I wasn't great with computers, but I just knew how to navigate them. But everybody else there was a little bit older. They really, they weren't online or on computers at all. This is like the early 2000s. I got designated as, the badge guy. I was the one that had to create all the badges,
Take the picture.
take the pictures, and get their access to their specific cards, which was great. I mean, there was a ton of overtime, and just literally, it's just you take a picture, you put it here, you put their name, their access level, times that by 50,000 people that were at the building. There have been some. It's funny you say that. New job postings, which I've come across, where security guard employers are asking for individuals with drone experience, because they do that now as part of their patrols. So they still have like the regular car patrols, mobile patrols with bicycles, but now they're asking for drone experience.
Oh.
I'll tell you, folks, you get your drone license, and it's pretty good money to be made. I fly one for fun. I have my pilot's license for that, which is very easy to get. It's nothing really to go woo-ha about. But you can see it being integrated for patrols, for real estate views, right? If they're going to take views of the property. The fire department deployed them with OEM a couple of months back for a building collapse in downtown. So they're able to kind of navigate and keep the people safe and still do their job somewhat as they search the area. The other big one that I've seen as well, a lot of guard companies now are training employees to become canine handlers, which I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah, I know. I've seen a lot of companies that are asking for more and more of that, but I'm like, it's such a specialized skill that you guys have something has to give.
Yeah.
It's like there are only so many people who would have their canine handler, experience or license. So it's like you have to start training people now if you're interested in that.
And a lot of people think too, I'm going to walk Cujo around the block. Like, listen, you have a big dog, but it's not your, play dog. As much as
Hmm.
it's a big fluffy German Shepherd or something, that thing is a trained service dog. Folks, if you're interested in booking any of our classes, check the link in the bottom or the QR code that is somewhere down at the bottom here. We do training, 7 days a week. If you're looking for something specific, please feel free to reach out. Matthew, last question of the day. One thing you would recommend every security professional should do?
Always stay vigilant. Always.
Oh, yeah.
Whether it's in the field that you do, security or other career fields, or just out in the streets, always remain vigilant.
Yeah, too many times, I would go by.
Uh-huh. Listen, Charles, that problem's gotten so bad that even law enforcement has that issue, and that saddens me when I see it. And I'm like,
I think it might have been yesterday or might have been Friday. I know that you did bring that up in the class. I tried to, just stay out of it, but you're right. Like a lot of the police officers, their jobs come through the phone, or their intel will come through the phone. It's a great tool, but folks got to remember, put the thing down. You got to live in the world, in the moment. Too many folks are, in the device, in the moment. I always like to bring this one up. I think in security, you should also be physically and mentally prepared for the job. Sometimes it could just be as easy as bang out like 3 push-ups in the morning, get your blood flowing. You don't have to be super fit athlete, but also be mentally prepared for the job.
Yeah.
Depending on where you work, you might deal with 1,000 people a day, and it's 1,000 different questions or problems. You got to be ready for that, and also ask for rotations. Don't always stay at the same post. Learn the different positions at your job site or in your company as
Absolutely.
well. Make yourself more valuable. Matthew, all right, appreciate you jumping in today. I can't believe it. Almost an hour already.
Oh yeah, look at the time. Wow. Huh.
And you're working, I'm working, everybody's working today. Everybody's running around. We had a lot of viewers in the background. If you're interested to take your annuals with Matthew, he's teaching a lot. Book him online at guardiangroupservices.com. Folks, if you want to connect with us on social media, we're on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, all that good stuff. And Matthew, just wanted to say thank you so much for today.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Charles.
you.
Thank you, Guardian Group Services. Thank you to everyone in the audience.
And I know you're helping people all over the world, doing your thing. Stay safe, stay alert, stay alive.
Thank you. Take care.